Hey everybody, I wanted to talk to you in regards to a pretty heavy event that happened for my family last night. Last night, a bunch of the women that I'm friends with up here, we got together for ladies' night. We were actually at a friend's house sitting around a campfire. And some of the guys decided to get together and like take the kids over to one gentleman's house and just relax and hang out there too. So my husband, our three daughters, and a friend of ours were on the vehicle after they dropped me off for ladies' night, and we're headed to the other friend's house where the guys were hanging out with the kids. And in the process of going there, they actually witnessed a fatal head-on car accident. Now, my husband, he has had a pretty extensive training when it comes to medical preparedness type things. My husband has worked for refuge training for the last year as a lead role player, so he's very well versed in like applying tourniquets and stuff like that. And then he also works for Refuge Medical, like packing those kits and everything else too. And so I've talked before about the need to be medically prepared as a family and as individuals, especially when you're living out in rural areas like we are now, where there may not be emergency personnel that are able to get there that quickly. Also, even if you live in a city, I mean, you think about city traffic and stuff like that, emergency personnel trying to get through traffic can be pretty difficult there too. So my husband and our friend, they're riding together with my husband and I's three daughters in the back of the Suburban, and they are literally the ones who were the first responders to this accident. So my husband has our friend who also has been trained through refuge training. He has helped out with a class before, but he actually attended the class himself too. But he had the friend get out first because he needed to get the vehicle to a safe space because we did have our three daughters in the car. And basically what happened is, as my husband's jumping out of the driver's seat, my oldest daughter was already getting out of the middle row of our vehicle and jumping into the driver's seat. And he turns around and looks at her. He's like, "Hey," she's like, "I know, lock the doors, don't let anybody in." And so she locks the doors and she basically keeps the vehicle under control while my husband and our friend are rendering aid. Unfortunately, someone basically turned the wrong way down a 2-lane highway, and he ran head on into another vehicle. The gentleman who was going the wrong direction died on scene, basically instantaneously, because my husband and our friend were literally like right there when it happened. Our friend went, I guess, and checked on the gentleman in the truck, and he had already passed. And then my husband and our friend went to render aid to the woman in the vehicle who was really, really badly injured. She was life flighted to a hospital out of town, obviously, and whatnot. They had to put tourniquets on both her legs. They worked with EMS. When EMS got there, it took about 5 minutes for emergency personnel to actually get there. But basically, in that time period of that 5 minutes in between EMS getting there, my husband and our friend were kind of the ones in charge of the situation. My husband had a pulse oximeter on him, so he was keeping track of the woman's pulse and oxygen readings and relaying that to another bystander who had 911 on the line, so that they kind of knew what the condition of the woman was as they were coming to the event. And basically, working once EMS got there, EMS didn't even question them. Like, didn't even question, like, who are you? What are you doing? Why are you helping? That kind of deal. They had JT, my husband, pulling stuff off of the ambulance to help put like the seat collar on her. It was actually an ambulance that was actually completely staffed by women. So there were certain times where the women actually were not strong enough to do certain tasks with the victim. And our friend was able to be that strength, and same with my husband, be that strength to get things done. My husband and his friend were the ones who put the tourniquets on her legs to prevent any arterial bleeding and everything like that. So it was a pretty heavy night for both my husband and our friend. Now, it's one of those things where, like I said, I am a big proponent of being medically prepared, and I haven't always been that way. It was something that when we moved out here, I realized the need for it because, again, rural area and whatnot. But tourniquets are something that we keep in our vehicle at all times. Multiple tourniquets, like we have enough tourniquets for every single person in our family, little kids all the way up kind of deal. We have different tourniquets for different ages and everything else. And I pray that I never have to use that on any of my family. And it's one of those things, though, that you don't know when you will end up being a first responder. And I think that's the part that's really important, is that you need to be prepared for that kind of thing. And so there's that side of it. My husband and his friend, praise Yah that they were there and were able to render aid and at least help prolong this woman's life. I don't know if she made it or not. She did make it into the life flight. She was alive, and she knew when the seat collar went on that it was uncomfortable and she didn't want it on her. She knew when the tourniquets went on that they were uncomfortable and she didn't want them on her. So she had enough cognitive ability to know that there was painful things happening, but I don't know past that point. The thing that actually really hit me with this, besides the fact of there's like so many things that had to happen in order for my husband and our friend to be there at that exact moment, which I'm not really going to get into all those, but it's literally like 3 weeks ago, things started getting put in place for last night to happen, for my husband and our friend to be there. So that's pretty incredible, the fact that 3 weeks ago, things were starting to get put in motion for my husband and our friend to be at that place at that exact time. So there's that. The other thing is we have 3 young daughters. Horrific car accident. Someone died. Someone was very gravely injured. And my children didn't see it. They didn't see it because each one of them separately, and now my children are young, they're 4, 7, and 9. Each one of them, I talked to them that night because I wasn't there. And so when I did get to see them, once I got back from ladies' night, I talked to each of my girls separately. And I said to them, I was like, they started talking about the accident. And again, I was not talking to them at the same time. We weren't even in the same rooms or the same places or anything like that. So it's not even like they overheard their sister saying something to me. My 4-year-old was actually the first one who mentioned something to me when I got to where my husband and the kids were at our friend's house. And I was taking her to the bathroom, and she says, "Mommy, we saw a bad accident tonight." I was like, "Oh, yeah?" She's like, "Yeah, there were like 8 or 10 cops there, lots of flashing, lots of police cars and the ambulance and everything like that." And I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, "Did you," because I already knew the accident had happened at this point. And I said, "Did you see the cars hit?" Because I knew they were literally right there when the 2 cars hit head on. And I said, "Did you see the cars hit?" She goes, "No, I saw a bright light. I did not see the cars hit." That's all she saw. She saw a bright light. And I'm thinking in my head, okay, maybe headlights or something like that. I didn't really put any stock into it. And again, bad accident, something may have flashed. So I didn't think much of it because I just didn't. So then later, my 7 and my 9-year-old at separate times in separate places tell me their account of it. Every single one of my daughters saw a bright light. They were in the vehicle with my husband and our friend. They were, as my husband said, they should have seen everything. My husband and our friend said there was no light whatsoever. No light happened, period. Actually, what happened is it got dark because when the 2 cars hit, all their headlights and everything went off. And it wasn't headlights my kids saw. They all said that they saw a bright light, and then basically everything was over. So neither my husband nor our friend saw the bright light. And then we, all 3 of my kids have accounts of the bright light after that point. The way I look at it is, and you can believe whatever you want to believe in this instance, but the way I look at it is Yah protected my girls from seeing a horrific car accident. That bright light, I absolutely believe, was Yah blinding them to a certain extent to what was happening, because that's a horrific thing even to come up upon and drive past, because there's a community Facebook group for the area, and people are talking about it, and people are talking about, like, people that drove by, about how horrible the accident was and just how horrendous it was, and they weren't even there to see it. They just happened to drive by it after it happened, and all of the EMS and everybody else was already there. And my kids saw nothing. Their literal remembrance is bright light, Daddy pulls off to the side of the road, and they're sitting in a vehicle for 30 minutes while Daddy and our friend are rendering aid and saving a woman's life. That's it. Now, my oldest daughter also would not let my 2 youngest daughters turn around in the vehicle to turn around and look to see what was going on. She told them both to stay looking forward. They don't need to see it, which I'm really proud of her. Granted, she's only 9. Like, that's pretty smart of her to be like, hey, you guys don't need to see that kind of stuff. Also, when my husband came back to the vehicle, he, rightly was trying to check on the girls to make sure they were okay, because he thought, just like I did, that they just saw this horrific accident where somebody died. And he asked, "You girls okay? Like, what have you been doing?" Well, I've been doing this and everything. And my oldest daughter says, "We've been praying." They were praying for them. And I even asked my oldest daughter last night, I was like, "So I heard you were praying." I was like, "What were you praying about?" And she said, "We were praying that everybody was okay, and, that everybody gets the help they need and stuff like that." And which I thought was really sweet. And as my husband and I both said, like, I don't think we could have ever been more proud. Like, to be completely honest, we could have never been more proud of our kids than at that moment, because they're in this really horrible situation. And what we thought witnessed this really horrible situation, they're sitting here praying for the people involved. And that was really proud. But as a mom, I will say that this whole, like, my husband and our friend being there at that exact time, at that exact moment, like, I see God in all of that, and how he worked things, like I said, starting 3 weeks ago. Things started getting put in place for my husband and our friend to be there at that moment. And so I find that incredible. But the thing that, as a mom, as someone who's worried about my kids, like, mental health and well-being and stuff like that, knowing that they didn't even see anything. Like, today, they're totally fine. Like, it's, they asked about the accident a little bit, in the sense of, like, do we know if the woman's okay, that kind of thing. But I've talked to them more about it, and literally they don't remember. They remember light. That's all they remember. They remember light, pulling off on the side of the road or down, like, on a side street, and just sitting there for 30 minutes waiting for Daddy to get done. That's it. And I absolutely believe that Yah spared my kids that horrible sight. But at the same time, I believe he put my husband and our friend there in that place for that reason, to be able to help that woman. And so it's sad. Please pray for the family of the man who passed away. Please pray for the woman, that she does fully recover from all her many broken bones and issues. But and then also for her family as well during this time. But pray for them. But at the same time, I hope that, just like me, you see the beauty in what Yah was doing in that time period, and how he aligned things the way he did. Because nothing's by accident. All of this happens for a reason. And it's absolutely beautiful what he did to make things happen the way they did. And while I wish that obviously these people had never been in this accident, he still had a plan. Yah still had a plan in place. And he protected those that he protected, my children. He protected them from seeing it. But at the same time, he strengthened and taught the people who needed to be there to help be in that situation, my husband and his friend, to help save this woman's life. So just wanted to share that with you guys. Get prepared, guys. Get medically prepared. Have medical equipment in your vehicle. You never know when it could be your family that's involved in something like this, and you're the first responder. So just wanted to share that with y'all. Hope you have a great day. Bye.